Welcome to the From the Shadows podcast. I am your host, Shane Grove. And before we get started with this week's episode, I just want to remind everybody that if you want to get a hold of us or follow along with what all the crazy nonsense that we're doing on social media, you can go to the From the Shadows podcast website at fromtheshadowspodcast.com. There's links to all of our social media, even TikTok while it lasts. Who knows if it's going to get canceled here in the United States? I don't have any idea, but I don't do any dancing on TikTok anyway, so it's no big deal. But you can find us on there if you want to get a hold of us. Hit the contact button and send me an email, especially if you have an experience or an encounter that you want to come on and share. We'd love to hear from you and love to have you on as a guest. And then if you want to follow me, it's at Shane Grove Author on Instagram, and that's a great place to send me a message too. So with that being said, we start this episode, and I have to put a disclaimer. We usually don't welcome any Michigan people on the show other than Tim Lovelace, the infamous Tim Lovelace. He's a Michigander through and through. We have had people that are in Michigan, but not true blood Michigan people, like our guest Stacy, who is joining us. So Stacy, welcome to the From the Shadows podcast, despite being a Wolverine at heart.
Well, thank you, Shane.
I do appreciate the tiger. The tiger English, is that the English D or whatever? Is that what they call it?
Yeah.
I do appreciate
it's pretty unique. You know how it has amazing blue and the Michigan M right there. Wait, see here. That's one. Yeah, but the cool thing is, I guess next year the NHL hockey game is going to be Detroit and Columbus. Now they're thinking about, the rumor is, the Red Wings might wear maize and blue, and the Blue Jackets wear Ohio State colors.
Or scarlet and gray. That would be pretty.
Except for the Michigan alumni that plays for Columbus, I like fine wearing those colors.
I wonder how he could pull. Oh, yeah, that would be probably make his skin itch. But hey, look, if you want to play for a really good team, sometimes you have to make. You have to play for Michigan. Oh man, it's terrible. All right. We could go back and forth, Ohio State, Michigan all day. In fact, we did in text messages about a week ago. But the reason you're on is you shared with me a while ago about some paranormal experiences you had in Michigan and in part of your military career. So first off, thank you. Thank you for your service. And it's terrible that during your military career, not only do you got to defend the country, but you have to try to evade paranormal activity. That shouldn't happen. You should be immune from that.
Yeah, but it happens.
It happens. So
it's funny, someone's not.
Well, go ahead and let's get into some of your experiences from when you were a kid, and just kind of let us know like where you were at in the, what were age wise, what part of the country you were at. Cause I know you moved around a little bit, and I want to hear all this crazy stuff that you've had happen to you.
Okay. Well, we'll start out, originally up in Flint, Michigan. And my mom, she moved me and my brother into a brand new townhouse complex in Flint Township called Cambridge Square. And one thing I noticed was that, when we went to bed, I would see like those figures going from the bathroom to my mom's room. Now, me and the kid, because I was probably 8 or 9, I'm thinking, well, this is probably imagination now. It could be maybe my eyes are playing tricks, because I don't have my glasses on, and the lights would be out, but you still had the back glow from the first floor. When my brother told me one time that he was walking upstairs and he seen some red eyes looking at him from the mirror that we had at the top of the stairs. So that was a little freaky. But my mom, she told my grandma and my aunt, takes the cake, because what she seen was basically like a white blob trying to convince her to let it sleep in the bed with her. But it was using my brother's voice.
What?
So she thought it was Joey for the longest, you know? And she said, no, go back to sleep, go back to your room. You have your own bed, you have your own room, go back. Well, they got the argument for about 5 minutes. Well, then my mom, gets to the point where she's upset, and then she raises her voice and says, go back to bed now, Joey. Well, the thing this time changes his voice. Real deep, real scary. And it says, no, I want to get in bed now. And she said, the eyes were red and it had like real sharp teeth everywhere. And that's when I guess I kind of woke her up, and she freaked out a little bit, and she started praying, and it went away. So,
holy! So obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously, but that must have been the same thing that your brother saw at the top of those stairs with the red eyes. I mean,
could be.
Now, did she feel like it was demonic or just?
Yeah, she talked to a friend of hers right when it happened afterwards, and her friend said, "Yeah, that was demonic." And my mom said, "Yeah, I think it was too."
And so after that incident, then did anything else happen, or did it just kind of?
I don't think so. I think mom started praying more and more, and then nothing else happened.
Holy smokes! That would be crazy. And I can picture that, like a parent half asleep and the kid, come on. And why would you think it was a demonic entity standing there when it was your son's voice?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Holy moly, that's crazy. That is crazy. That is crazy. I've never heard another story like that where.
Yeah, that is different. So,
holy smokes. Okay. All right. Well, if you could top that, I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear it.
Well, later on, my mom, my stepdad, and they got married, and we moved down to Southeast Missouri. My brother fit in okay because he's a little brother and he didn't start school yet, so it was an easy transition for him. For me, growing up in Flint, Michigan, which was the third biggest city in Flint or in Michigan, moving down to Missouri's smallest town, yeah, that kind of sucked.
A little bit different, right?
Yeah, it was different because instead of having people right next to you, they're miles away, and you gotta drive to go anywhere instead of just going down around the corner. So, and plus, I think at that time, Missouri was, the Big East or Big Eight at that time.
Oh yeah. It
was the early 80s.
A long time ago.
It was a long time ago. So, next thing I remember is in Poplar Bluff, because down there in Missouri, I lived in Brosey, Missouri, which was about 10 miles away from Poplar Bluff.
Okay.
Now, they had a road in Poplar Bluff called Wilcox Road. It's the same story you hear everywhere. Some kids playing on railroad tracks back in the 1800s. Train comes by and takes off his head. You see two lights. One's supposed to be the train, the other one's supposed to be the conductor or whatever. So I hear this. My best friend Donnie said, "Hey, let's go over there." And on that, but he said at the time there was supposed to be three or four satanic churches in town. I'm like, what do you mean? Because I was like, what do you mean satanic churches in town? Because that's a new one for me. So we went driving around town. We went to everyone he said, and the churches were different. One, they all had red doors, and ones These were read. They had the word church in quotations, and the pastor's name was, they were all old Roman names. Every one of them were all old Roman names.
So, and this is okay. So, what town is this? Because I'm gonna have to ask. I'm gonna have to ask the Howler about this.
Poplar Bluff.
Poplar Bluff. Okay.
Yep. It's in the Blue Hills.
I'm writing that down because I'm definitely going to ask about. So, like, even one satanic church in Missouri in a small town is probably too many. But you saying it's had 2 or 3?
It was like he said 4 of them, and we went to all 4. And I guess this is during the time too for the Satanic Panic in the 80s.
Oh yeah. It's
so I'm not sure that was involved in that, but
it started in the mid to late 80s and really got big in the up to the mid 90s. It was like a 10-year period. The problem is all of that was made up.
Yeah.
There really wasn't a Satan. I mean, there was a panic in a sense that everybody made some stuff up or exaggerated some stuff.
Yeah.
And then it got crazy and went on. But there really wasn't this big rash of people practice Satanism and, torturing people and burning them at the stake and like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there really was. There was. I've heard some really good shows that have debunked that. So you're in the, so you see these church. What do you guys think?
I thought it was a little weird and stuff, and he's like, yeah, see, they're there. And then he says, let's go down to Wilcox Road and I'll show you the house, and he told about the lights. I said, yeah, we should see the lights, blah, blah, blah. So we go there, and he always had Mustangs in high school. Now I had a 73 Monte Carlo. So we're driving there, and we go over the small wooden bridge. And he's like, hey, he's like, once, it was funny how I said it. We need to lock the doors now, because once we go past this bridge, we're in evil territory. I was like, what do you mean? He said,
okay.
He said, there's crazy things are over here, and all this stuff. And I'm like, are you sure? So we just did it, and we go down the road, went to the house that was abandoned, but it was still there back then. This is probably Christmas '88, right between Christmas and New Year's Eve.
Okay.
So driving along, he tells us about when these kids went inside the house and they got chased out. And someone grabbed this girl, and she couldn't see it, but let's had her legs. And we said, okay, well, there's nothing here now. Let's leave. So we're going back, and we see this light in the distance, and it's a red light. And Donnie's like, that's it. That's the light. So I'm like, okay, put it in park. And it gets closer and closer. And it gets to a point where it's probably 500 yards away. And I'm like, hey, I'm out. So I put in drive and take off. Then I'm like, we get bearings. So let's go back. That could have been something else completely, and we just got freaked out. So we turn around, get the spot again, and we see it again. So I'm like, you know what? Let's check things out first. So it's getting closer and closer, and I creep forward, and it changes directions forward to us. Then I put it in reverse, and it changes direction. It follows us up as we're backing. Then I'm like, okay, this is a little weird. Put in drive, stay there. And then the closer it gets to us, it's like you see, basically it's like this. Where you see the ball, and then you see 2 things come out, and like this, and it's coming towards us. And that's when I put in drive and take off. Almost slid into a ditch because I was fishtailed right around it. So
you could see. So how close was this ball? Did this ball get to you?
It was probably 200 yards, probably or so. But it was big and it was intense. It wasn't no small light like someone carrying a lantern or a train light. It was pretty big.
Well, at 200 yards away, it would have to be pretty big then for you to be able to see
Yeah,
a couple things come off.
yeah. That was a strange part. And Donnie was, he's like, this is weird. And at that time we just took off. There was a house. We pulled into the driveway just to kind of cool off. And we're just trying to relax. And this car pulls up behind us. It's like a little Dodge Omni. And like,
Don't make fun of those. I had one of those too.
and Donnie's like, I started, hey, do these people live here? He said, no, this house is abandoned. He said, my girlfriend's house is right there, and no one lives in this house. So, I put the car in reverse, turn on so the lights come on, and the brake lights come on, and they won't move. So I revved the car up. So I just put glass packs on it. So it's nice and loud. They won't move. So finally, I put in gear again, revved up, and this creep right next to it. Finally, they back out. I back out, and they're chasing us. They start chasing us downtown, basically downtown Poplar Bluff. They still had brick roads, 25 miles per hour, and we're doing this 50 downtown, and they're on our butt. So after a while, I see the 7-Eleven. I pull in there, and they just keep on going straight. And I pull out, chase them, and Donnie seen who the drivers were. When I turned, he turned around to see who they were. It was an old couple. It was an old couple chasing us.
So do you think they were behind the light?
I have no idea. Because I was like, an old couple? He said, yeah, it was an old couple. Now, the crazy part was the next day, Donnie used to work at a local dealership as a mechanic. And someone came looking for him. And when the guy asked the manager if Donnie was working there, he got a weird vibe from the guy. And he said, no, Donnie's not here. He's not working today. So he waited until his people left. And then once they left, he went to Donnie and said, hey, someone's looking for you. And they're not too happy. But they kind of gave me a creepy vibe. So that was it. That situation.
They weren't, what were they driving, a Dodge Omni?
I have no idea. But yeah, that was that for that area. But the funny part was also one time my mom was driving to work in Poplar Bluff. She's going down this highway and has some zigzags in it. And she sees this blue car. So she keeps hauling ass, going to get to work on time. And she goes, you won't believe it, Stacy. This little blue car, I thought, was this a random blue car? Was a state trooper, and he pulled me over. Because I just started driving Mustangs back then, the little boxy Mustangs. Yeah. Because back then, the state police they didn't have a standard color. So one time you see a brown state trooper, a blue one, a white one, a gray one. They were all different colors.
So now that story, the story you're talking about, like the town and going out to the country and the legend and seeing a light and getting chased. I would bet that every person listening to the show that is in our age range, okay, early 30s, or in our age range, who lived in especially in the United States in a small town, experienced the same sort of thing, because we had that little legend about that abandoned house, and you'd go out there, and if you saw some light or you saw something, you'd take off, and then half the time you get chased by somebody, and probably it was the property owner wanting to know why, because they get sick and tired of people coming out and trying to see the ghost or whatever. And I think that experience for people at our age range is probably universal for anybody that grew up in a small or lived in a small town at that time, because that happened all the time. I could, and there's, the stories vary about what the legend is. Okay.
Yeah.
Yours was people got hit by a train. Ours outside of our town there was this house where, they called them Mongoloid kids back then. The Mongoloid family lived, and the house burnt down, so there's all kinds of crazy stuff. But that's a great story, because that is so typical late 80s, early 90s in America for all of us. And like I said, I think we could all relate to that sort of thing. So you make it out of Poplar Bluff then, I'm assuming.
Yeah, because in '89, in June I went to boot camp, spent 20 years in the Navy doing that stuff. Now, didn't really see any things like any hauntings on ships, nothing. But the area itself, there were some crazy things in the area. One instance I remember, when my first wife was going through divorce and stuff, and at the time there was a hurricane that was coming through. So when a hurricane comes to Norfolk, whatever, the Navy sends all the ships out. And then all the fighters will go to bases inland to get out of the storm area. So since I was in the barracks, they had us all leave the base, find a hotel. So once we found one, call the command to let them know where we're at, and we're okay. Well, what happened was my ex-wife, she was involved with a lot of different people, let's say.
Okay.
So they, was intimate with a lot of other people. And this one guy that she was seeing didn't like that she was seeing other people. So he comes over to the house and says, "No, it's just me and no one else. That's it." Pulls out this little pistol, points at her little boy, pulls the trigger. Nothing happens. Pull it 3 times, nothing happens. And he said, "Okay." Points it over at her girlfriend, and it works. 3 rounds go right into her, and then she passes away in the front porch. So I got notified. I think Norfolk Police notified the command. The command notified me. So just to get her out of a dangerous area, kind of reconcile, said, "No, let's go," and we'll get transferred over to the West Coast so he'd be in a safe area. But doing that, I had a Rottweiler that was over in the duplex in Norfolk. Now she was under police protection, so she was in a different place. And I was over in Damnick. So I would drive from Damnick to the house, take Kaylee out to walk her, feed her, clean up anything that happened. And there was this one time I was getting ready to leave, and she started tracking something. And there's no one there. It's just me and Kaylee. No one's on the other side. So it's an empty house, empty duplex. And I'm like, "What's going on?" And I'm like, you know how you hear dogs and see things?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
"Oh, yeah.
Well, I know I hear a fly. And I'm like, "Oh, crap. She's probably seeing something that I don't want to know." And I hear Stacy. And that girl's voice that died. And I'm like, "Well, Kaylee, you got your food, you got your water, I'm out." Go in the car. And then, she had my ex-wife had a pack of cigarettes there. So I smoked 2 cigarettes and I don't even smoke. And then I was left.
So you heard the voice, and it was the same. So how long after that was that then?
That was a week or so.
Wow.
It was pretty recent.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I can't even imagine it,
So That was weird. And later on, we moved into this townhouse in Virginia Beach with my now with my present wife, and we see little weird things in the house. Like one time, she said she'll be in the bedroom, and a cold draft will come in, or sometimes rose perfume will just walk through the bedroom. And it wasn't like new perfume; it's like old time rose perfume.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is that? Then she said, well, there was an old couple they died in the house. Oh, that wasn't cool. So had that. Sometimes you would see like little shadow figures like darting around like that. That's not cool either.
Well, listen, as long as they didn't have red eyes, that the first batch of shadow.
They didn't have no eyes. I didn't see no eyes with them. But they just pop around and see them leave.
But that old time perfume smell,
yeah,
you hear a lot about, and you definitely, because that takes me right back to my grandma, who was much older, my older grandma, and she would put that like dab that stuff, that's what she'd say, a little dab on my, and it didn't smell like perfume of now, but it always had that, like you said, roses or a flowery smell, or even like a medicine-y smell. And that's weird when you smell that stuff now, because nobody makes, I don't know of anybody who makes that stuff, so you're like, what do you attribute to? I mean, if I smelled that in our house, I would know it wasn't somebody in the house, what I'm saying? Like nobody living in the house, because nobody has that.
Well, there was another time too, in San Diego. We lived in El Cajon, and there's one complex. The lights would flash upstairs, and it's like someone just turn them on and turn them off. And sometimes all cabinet doors would be open, and my ex would say, "Well, that's her friend that died. She probably followed us from Virginia to California." But then later on, we found out the previous person that lived there before we moved in was also into devil worshiping also. So who knows what could have been? But
I think you have some terrible, terrible luck, is what I'm.
Well, it gets even stranger.
Okay.
Like the house in Virginia Beach, the townhouse. There was two times that was really strange. And one it was like 3:00 in the morning, and my daughter her room was in the backside, and our bedroom was in front. And at 3:00 in the morning, my wife hears it first, and it was a barber doll sings and said, "I'm just like you, you're just like me." But it would say that in the middle of the song, and it only say a couple times, but I kept repeating that phrase over and over again. I'm just like you, you're just like me. So the third time I heard it, and this time my wife, she's like, a little concerned. So I go through the house, I'm a guards mate, train to use weapons and stuff, and train fast reaction teams on the ship. So I did my thing, there in the house, didn't see nothing. But I seen the doll that did it was face down in the middle of the floor, and the button's on the back, and there's nothing touching the button. So I'm like,
so it wasn't like it was on its back and could have been pushing the button. It's over. Okay, that's kind of crazy.
And here's another one. One time my daughter had a balloon. You know what? You have those happy birthday balloons or whatever. You know how sometimes they'll be drifting across the house?
Mm-hmm.
And thing is, you can tell is the string always trails a balloon, right? Now this time, that balloon went from the front door to the back door on the first floor, and the string was straight up and down. Didn't even move while the balloon was in motion. It was perfect line.
Okay.
I'm watching it. My wife's watching it. And I'm getting ready. I pull my phone out to take a video of it. And she's like, no, because I don't want to see nothing in that video. she's like, no, don't do that. So,
I wish you'd have taken that video. Like, why? Who listens to their wife? I mean, seriously. All right.
You know how I go sometimes. If you go ahead and do it, then she's like, blah, 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 blah. You never heard the end of it. So, well, then another time, I was downstairs watching TV, and I see something pops up in the window outside that looks at the backyard. And I'm like, ugh. And then I said, first class girls, mate, don't get scared easy. So what I seen it was a quick second, and I was like, wow. Then I seen like an orb come from the outside of the house, go into the house, and went up to the vent into my daughter's bedroom. So I'm like, well, that's a little weird. And whatever it was real quick on the window. It was real quick. So, but I was watching this art show, and this woman had a similar experience, but she took a picture of it, and it was like a reaper. I was like, that's it. That's why I seen it. It was a reaper face on the window. And I'm like, a lot of the area, you have shipwrecks, bodies washing the shore. You have all kinds of stuff that happened in earlier time frames in the area. So I'm like, well, maybe that can contribute to some of the hauntings over there. That was pretty crazy. And then in Virginia Beach itself, they have this plantation called a fairy plantation. And at the time, it was one of those courthouses for the Commonwealth of Virginia, or even the colonial courthouses, because there's a part that's really old. That was, at first I think built in the 1600s, then it burned down, so they rebuilt it. And you have one section that was courthouse built in the 1700s, where they actually would sell and buy slaves right there. Then you have a second edition that was built later on, and then the last edition that was built probably around the Civil War time. So the family had a lot of slaves too, and then one time they had an uprising, and they killed a lot of people around there. So when they got them, there was a tree in the backyard. I think it's one of 3 hanging trees left in Virginia. And you can look up at the limb, and you can still see where the marks were in the rope.
Oh, man.
And so I was with a paranormal group, and we were supposed to stay over there until 3 or 4 in the morning. So I'm laying down, and my chief's with me, and I hear, "Mama?" And like, there's no kids there. And on our time, earlier that night, my chief and I, we were doing EVP recordings and taking pictures of Henry's bedroom, which is right above the old courthouse where they actually sold the slaves. And we did catch the EVP saying hello, and it wasn't my voice, it wasn't Chief's voice, but it sounded like an older African American gentleman. And the picture of the window that was in this room, and one of the panes, it looked like his face was in the pane too. Same thing, it looked like an older gentleman. So I'm like, it could be him.
Places like that have such a history, and it's not all good, and that energy, sticks around a lot of times. and wants to be noticed.
Yeah, because my chief and I, we both tried that too, because we were members of the U.S. Navy, and the people in the house, they had some family members that were in the Confederate Navy. So we were trying to say, how does it feel to have 2 U.S. Navy sailors in your house? But we didn't get no response from that one either. And in Huber Heights, and the first house we moved in there were some strange things. Well, my daughter this time, she was probably 6 or 7. So the house, I had a layout where you can go from the kitchen, from the bedrooms into the kitchen. There's basically like 2 access points. So I thought I seen her shoot in. So I was going to jump in from the other side and go, ha! Scare her? Well, when I did it, there's no one there. I'm like, well, that's a little weird. So, and that, then we moved on from that place. I started driving the truck. So I was away during the week. So we moved to base housing, stayed there for almost 10 years. And that time we had some crazy things happen. Like we first get there, we move in. My wife has an MP3 player. So my daughter's like, love you, Mom. Hope you like this. And then we hear, that's enough. It wasn't my daughter's voice. It wasn't my wife's voice. It was another woman saying, that's enough.
Saying that's enough to them.
Yeah, on the MP3 player.
Oh, on the MP3.
Yeah. Well, they recorded it. Because Alexa was playing it back to make sure she recorded it. And they heard, that's enough. So, yeah.
That's no thanks.
Yeah. And then like I said, the base housing has a lot of people report paranormal experiences throughout all the units. And they'll say, have you seen this? Have you seen a white girl or older men? I'm like, yeah, I've seen them over here, or I seen them at this unit, I seen them at that unit. So first couple of times, like one time my wife and I were wrapping Christmas presents. We look up on the banister going up the stairs, and there was a white figure, like a little girl, watching us full of presents. So I'm like, oh, this is a little weird. And sometimes our dogs just look, in the middle of the night, just look in the corner or in the doorway. And then my daughter said, yeah, sometimes, I hear things in their closet. And she didn't like them. So there's something always coming out of the closet.
Oh my gosh. Now that's a horror. That's a horror movie. Something in the closet for sure.
Well, I told her, well, if you ever get, afraid or whatever, just pray to Jesus or say, believe in the name of Jesus Christ, and I'll be gone. I said, okay. Because you hear all the time where, someone's kid is seeing something, but the parents don't believe them, so then they get trapped. So I'm like, well, if you see something, let me know, and we'll take care of it together. So. There's other things happen too. Like one time, something happened, and we were outside. We were eating breakfast out in town, and base police said, "Hey, we need you guys to come to the house. Something's going on, and we need you to come here so we can verify, see what's going on." So we get there, and there was like 5 police cars there at our house, base police. So I'm like, wow, this must be pretty serious if they're having, 6 police cars. They're probably like, who's living here? Oh, Navy, Gunner's mate. Oh crap, send everybody. So get there, tell them what's going on, and they're like, yeah, we heard something. We heard something in the back room in the kitchen of your place. So we want to do a sweep, make sure no one's in the house. So, well, yeah, because it's only us 3. That's how we live here. She said, well, we still have to go inside and look. Yeah, because they went in the back of the house where we kept the dogs. And the patrolman heard an older gentleman shushing the dogs. They said they heard an older gentleman say, "Shh, be quiet."
And that's the police that are saying
They're police saying that. So, yeah, that. And there was one time, my wife and I are asleep. We're sleeping. And she wakes me up because she's arguing with somebody in her sleep. And I'm like, what's going on? She says, well, this woman is trying to get in bed here. Well, woman, there's no one here. There's a woman right there trying to get in bed with us. And I'm telling her no. So I'm like, oh.
I mean, she just telling her no. Like, there's somebody.
Arguing, like, no, get out of here. So she was finally going to sleep. And she's not like woke up. She's just telling me. It's kind of like in a trance, whatever. And then I did feel one time where something grabbed my hip and pulled me away. So I like grabbed my wife real quick because that was crazy. That was probably the craziest one there when that happened. I would feel like a cold touch on my hip, or they latched down and tried to pull me out of bed.
Well, so when we were kind of talking about some of this before, and so for the listeners, the base that you were living near is right Patterson, right, or living on base, okay. And so I immediately went to the whole alien stuff, okay, because a lot of people have been talking recently that they think that aliens may be more of a demonic presence than actual beings from another. And because there have been a lot of reports of people that have just been like, I just started praying and it went away, and it went away. And so you wonder if, the long history of UFOs and aliens and whatever at Wright-Patterson, if they do have aliens there or alien bodies, or
I found out that Wright-Patterson was a reverse engineering base to begin with.
Really?
So
okay.
Like during World War One, or in time we captured enemy equipment, they will send it there, take it apart to find its strengths and weaknesses, and so that's probably why they sent the craft there.
Yeah, I did see a really interesting documentary on that type of, on the theory that the way we've been able to hide the technology that we've gotten from alien spacecraft is that the military, like Wright-Patterson, would get a material in, and then there was companies they would go to and say, here's this material. We need you to figure out what it is and then produce some of it. But because it left the military, it was no longer under the Freedom of Information Act that you could request try to put a paper trail together. It then was in the companies, and one of them was one in Columbus, and I can't remember the name of it, but they would get this stuff, and they just didn't ask questions. Like, they don't know where they got this metal, because some of it goes back to the Roswell crash, and the metal that when they crumbled it up, it went back flat again.
Yeah.
And I've seen researchers that have been able to track that stuff that got back to Roswell supposedly, and then disappears. But then, like, Kevlar appears, and other things that we couldn't have, or they didn't think we should have been able to engineer or made that leap to.
The one thing I always said is, like, it took 1,860 years for steam power, and then less than 100 years we have stealth fighters.
Or we went to the moon.
Yeah.
Unless you're Stacy Brown, then we didn't go to the
Yeah.
but we went to the but yeah, it's so when you start talking about you're living near Wright-Patterson, it's like, we don't really, you don't know what an alien really is, what their capabilities are. What if they're on base and they're getting out, or they're able to, um, their essence is able to,
Camouflage.
well, not just camouflage, but maybe their body is on the base under lock and key, but they're able to, their spirit or whatever they're able to leave their physical body and
Yeah.
and become those spirits or those beings that are visiting, trying to get in bed with your wife, or putting the hand on your hip or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I look, anything's possible. I think if you have an open mind and can try to connect the dots. But that's the first thing when you start talking about being there and crazy things happening. I'm like, man, I wonder if it's something that's on that base that they don't really, because I picture the military getting an alien, okay, and wanting to know, like, how intelligent it is, what it eats, and what makes it sick. It's stuff like studying, what you would study in a human, but not going the next step and saying, okay, what are its intellectual capabilities beyond reasoning? Like, can it talk? Does it have telepathy? Does it have the ability to, telekinesis type stuff? Does it have any of that stuff? And in the military, just not even considering that, well, we're going to lock these things up and we're going to see if they like pepperoni pizza, which will lead us to the best pizza in Dayton. But, that's the kind of stuff they're studying, not studying, like, can it leave its body? Can it, is it interdimensional stuff,
I also heard too that some people think it might just be like a mushroom, because like they study him back to the time where Betty and Barney Hill.
Yeah.
Because Barney Hill had he had like 40 pounds of nitrates in his car in the trunk. That was gone after the incident.
So they think that the aliens were after what he had in his trunk.
It was another podcast, but they listed like a couple of instances where Barney Hill had nitrates in his car. When they had that incident, that was gone. There was a guy who claimed he was abducted by aliens that pushed a hot dog cart. The hot dogs were gone. So, and then listen, what's even crazier is like did you hear about Bob in Oregon?
No.
There was a state park that has 2 massive mushrooms, and the mushroom is basically the state park. And how they found out about the first one was they were doing soil samples, and I guess they went too deep, and they killed off like thousands of trees, like that. So they did some more. They found there was a huge mushroom underneath the parks that the whole environment is feeding off from.
I have never heard that.
Yeah, that was one of the podcasts.
Holy smoke. See, that's what happens when you listen to other podcasts. They start talking about mushrooms. But I understand what you're saying is that everything's growing on top of the mushroom, and you can't discern that it's a mushroom. You just think it's the ground and the rocks and everything.
Yeah, so
that's insane.
They said it was like hundreds of square feet. This thing is huge. So I think if you Google like state of Oregon, Bob mushroom, whatever, it should come up. They call it Bob.
Listen, I'm gonna look that up because
that's just weird, huh?
Well, before we finish up here, number one, I want to know. Well, I want to hear did you say your father-in-law had a Bigfoot experience?
Oh yeah, it was when I think he was a teenager when him and his brothers down on Paint Creek. They were fishing, and it was nighttime, and they said I think there 3 of them. They were throwing not just small branches, but trees at them. And all they had was lanterns at the time, so they couldn't really see how far. But they got chased out over in Paint Creek in southern Ohio.
So they were down there just fishing, and all of a sudden, small trees started getting thrown at them.
Yep.
That's crazy. Have you done any research to see if there's other sightings in that area, or?
No, he said it's Paint Creek because I think he came from Hillsborough area.
Okay.
So it might be Adams County. No, okay. I know Adams County has a bunch of reports.
That's crazy. So they didn't really see anything, but
they seen the trees come flying towards them.
Oh my gosh, that's good. That'd be interesting. I'm gonna have to do some research on that area and just see what else comes up. But I mentioned pizza, so go on the record. The best pizza in Dayton, Ohio.
Marion's Pizza.
Marion's Pizza. Okay. All right. So if anybody listening, all of our Ohio listeners, if you get to Dayton, go to Marion's Pizza. Did you say there's 3 locations?
Yeah, I know one's in Bain, I think 3rd Street, Beaver Creek. I'm not for sure, but can't remember the 3rd one. It might be Inglewood, but I'm not for sure about the 3rd.
Will you go in there and you tell them you want the From the Shadows podcast special? They won't have any idea what you're talking about, but just tell them you want it. Tell them you want it. Well, Stacy, you had some of these stories you shared were pretty terrifying. I gotta be honest. The stuff that your mom experienced, that's insane. And just some of the stuff that you lived through, like the guy with your ex, I don't even know. That's insane. I mean, but hopefully you're in a place right now. It's a little less active.
Oh yeah, it's fine.
It's a little less active, and you've kind of escaped some of that stuff. But no, I appreciate you listening to the show and reaching out and wanting to come on and share some of these things, and I appreciate it.
Now, I do have a Navy story that's pretty funny.
Oh, okay. Let's close with a funny Navy story.
Okay, right. So at the time I was on the USS Tarawa, and we're in Persian Gulf. We're heading towards Kuwait, and of course we have all the guns manned up in case someone wants to attack us. And the AF 25mm comes in. Hey, there's somebody taking pictures of us. There's a diver taking pictures of us, of the hull. Like, we're doing 10 knots. There's no divers that can keep up with us. He says, what you're seeing is just a sea life being kicked up by the screws. That's all it is. He said, nope, it's too bright for that. And it's someone's taking pictures of us. So, I try to calm him down, but he's freaking out. So the 3rd time he called, I notified Officer Deck. So, sir, F-25 out is reporting seeing a suspected diver flashing, taking pictures of a hull. He's like, this time of sea life, no one is doing this. So he calls again. Tell the Officer Deck. He sends the Master Arms down there. Master Arms confirms it's sea life. So you're getting spooked out here. It's just sea life. There's no divers. Well, he calls me again, reporting the same thing. I'm like, well, dude, there's 2 things that could be happening right here, and none of them have anything to do with a diver. So what you're experiencing is, one, it could be, the souls of dead Iraqis that you're seeing that might be coming to get you because they want revenge. He's like, He's like, that's not cool, man. He said, and I said, well, the second part is, have you ever heard of an unidentified submersible object? UFOs that dive into the water. So it could be one of those too, and they're coming to get you to probe you. So he's like, well, I'm gonna leave this. If I see one, I'm leaving this mount. I'm gonna run. So if you run from that gun mount, I'm gonna have you stand in front of the captain for captain's mast, and you're gonna get busted down and thrown in the brig. He's like, you're not cool, man.
So what was he seeing?
He was seeing sea life being spun up by the ship's props.
That's what he was. And why was that? So why would that why would that send off light?
I guess because it was nighttime. It was dark.
Yeah.
It was probably like 10:30 at night. And when the moon was shining down in the ocean, and it was just kicking up the sea life from the screws and light them up. And he thought it was a diver. And I don't think it would have to be a submersible object, which, well, we don't have radar for that, but somebody in our group would say, hey, you got something. Because we're surrounded by our people too, because the Taro is basically like just a smaller aircraft carrier that had like LCACs, which is hovercraft, and a couple of Harriers and helicopters and Cobras. So we always have other ships around us to protect us. So they would have seen something too, on their sonar. But this guy was so freaked out because I think he was like new, this is his first deployment in the war zone. So,
but that's amazing. That's amazing though that's what he was seeing, and he was bound and determined that there was somebody down there taking pictures. That's that is kind of funny. That is kind of, and that's terrible that you would say that stuff to him, but that's still funny nonetheless. Well, Stacy, hey, thank you so much, and I hope everybody enjoyed these stories the same as I did. And like I said, I hope you're in a quieter place so that you can get some rest.
Yeah. One more thing too. One more thing. I just want to tell you, go blue.
I was waiting for you to say that. Geez, I'm going to have Phil play the Buckeye Fight song as we go out of this. All right, man.
What have you been playing? I'm not for sure it was much of a fight song. I mean, you lost to Missouri.
Jeez. All right, I'm hitting end right now on that note.
All right. See you.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.
God only knows what time.